Journey into the Past, Chapter 1. Who am I? Don't ask me who I am. Ask those who have lived before. Ask the leaves and the trees that watched me come and go, and the fields where I ran barefoot in the summer as a laughing child. Ask the rock whose crevice holds my diary, hidden still. Ask the tree that bears my initials. Ask them, and they might tell you that I have existed since time began, just as they have. So long ago it seemed like an echo in my memory. I heard a voice, and I presume it was my own, pleading urgently. This time, give me knowledge so I won't make such a drastic mistake again. Let me help others to understand also, and give me a chance to help someone who was like I was. Birds singing, winds gently whispering, nature in perfect innocence was enjoying an endless summer's day in paradise. A small group of people stood at the far end of a grassy meadow bordered by forest. Beside them, a shimmering turquoise lake reflected a sky that seemed to glow with rainbow crystals in constant motion. A young black Hispanic man, Michael Jackson-ish in appearance, dressed as if he'd stepped out of a 1930s soup kitchen line, was deeply involved in a heated discussion with Angela, a young woman, a vision of ethereal blonde beauty. Don't make me go back, Angela. I'll do whatever it takes, just don't send me back. You can't stay, Nick. It's not up to me. It's been decided. You have unfinished business, but I'll always be with you, even if you can't see me. She gazed at Nick with sympathetic eyes and hugged him reassuringly, then vanished among the crowd of people he knew to be friends, slowly retreating. Please, he cried out in anguish to them. But he knew that he had no choice in the matter. He had been overruled by a presence higher than his own who knew what was best for him. He would begrudgingly call them the Council, but he would not call them God. He was alone now with his thoughts, a sense of deep sadness in his heart, resigned to fate. And then he seemed to experience a falling sensation, as if he were tumbling down, head over heels, through a tunnel of darkness. Steel Town, Hamilton, I see skyscrapers shrouded in low-hung fog, deserted, boarded-up buildings haunted by airborne pollution, furnace factories laboring through the night, shift workers coming up Wentworth and James, a workman's town, the lunch bucket crew, loading up on beer when the working day's through. Jollycut on the mountain, coming down, hugging the hill at night. The city lights spread out below. Dofasco, Stelco, where sparks and cinders fly. Steel dust and smoke in my eyes. Both the steel and the city lights glow in Steel Town, Hamilton. Christmas, pre-dawn on Wilson Avenue in Ancaster, just outside Hamilton, Ontario, 1954 suburbia. The moon shimmered silently over fresh snow on the front lawn. Inside the two-story brick and wood home, a massive Scotch pine in the living room twinkled with multicolored lights and ornaments, almost entirely blocking the view of a snow-covered front lawn. Perched atop the tree, a delicate golden star illuminated the shadows, now quickly fading into daylight. A precious moment of silence was broken before the excited shouts of my 8-year-old brother, Bob Keller, thumping down the stairs, burst into the room. A 2.5-year-old toddler, Maureen Kellar, a.k.a. Minnie, I was in the arms of my father, Ken Keller, standing beside my mother, Eileen, in front of the splendid Christmas tree, surrounded by huge piles of Christmas presents. My eyes were focused on one tiny red piano poking out from the branches at the base of the tree. Screaming in excitement, I ran toward it and grabbed it. My fingers found the keys, and the touch somehow felt familiar. I banged the keys, tink, tink, tock, tink, tink, tock, amid the shouts and laughter. Bob howled in delight. A new bike! He flitted about the room, ripping wrapping paper off gift after gift, dumped his assorted treasures from the Christmas stocking hung at the fireplace mantel. Licorice candy, peppermint, oranges, a deck of playing cards, socks, coloring pencils, comic books. It was a veritable feast and a celebration this Christmas. Keller Steeplejacks Limited, my father's sandblasting and spray painting business, had prospered this year. Life was good for our family, enjoying this comfortable experience of 1950s suburbia. My gaze turned toward my mother as she modeled a new Persian lamb fur coat for my father, who watched admiringly. She strutted across the room in Hollywood mode. My father, a handsome and self-made man, reflected the arrogant confidence of one who has overcome the poverty of his Irish farming roots. His was a rags-to-riches story. Before serving as a radio operator in World War II with the Algonquin Regiment, 4th Armored Division, he had crossed Canada as a steeplejack, climbing bridges and tanks, taking the most dangerous jobs, learning the ropes, before starting his own business and meeting my mother. She was a young mother, 10 years younger and disillusioned by a previous marriage to a cheating husband. She was living with her father and her young son, Bob, working in a factory when they first met on a blind date, and it was love at first sight. My father had also been married before, to a wife who squandered his pay while he was risking his life in the trenches of war overseas. They had parted long before I was born. There had been no children from the relationship. I was Ken and Eileen's first child, born outside of a legal marriage. My father was already 35 and more than ready to start a family. It was taboo in the early 1950s to have a child out of wedlock, a disgrace, a rebellion against the norm. But my father was a natural rebel, and the lack of approval from the institution of marriage didn't sway him. Legal marriage to my mother would have to wait a few more years until the divorce papers were final, and without a doubt, she trusted him. However, it wouldn't be until 6 years later that they were finally given the green light and were officially married at City Hall, shortly before my sister Kathy was born. I soon tired of playing with my little red piano and saw a light shining from a crack from between the French doors at the far end of the room. It seemed to beckon to me. No one noticed as I slipped away, pushing my way through the doorway into the kitchen. The light over the sink revealed a semi-opened cupboard door with an array of interesting bottles on its shelves. I saw a kitchen chair and knew how to maneuver it to the counter and climb up. I reached for the pretty pink candies in one of the bottles, St. Joseph's Children's Aspirin, and climbed down, clutching my treasure. I twisted the lid, which was loosely tightened. It slid off without hesitation. Dumping the contents on the floor beside me, I picked up the pills, swallowing them one by one until they were all gone.